The last video was entitled, Dr. Fauci does Jedi mind trick on Trump, in regards to no longer promoting hydroxychloroquine, but pushing the drug of the globalist choice because they stand to make trillions of dollars. And that drug of choice is remdesivir. You have hydroxychloroquine that will cost you about $15 for 60 pills, as opposed to the globalist choice, remdesivir. Guess how much? $4,500. Who can afford that? But anyway, you guys, we are gonna have to backtrack because, you know, these wicked people always plan behind closed doors. These Council on Foreign Relations, these people need to be brought up on sedition charges for trying to overthrow the government by whatever means they deem necessary. And their latest catastrophe of choice are epidemics and pandemics. Now, this goes all the way back to 2014 to the Obama administration. This is how long Dr. Fauci has been in the government. He dates back to like 1980. He was there with Ronald Reagan, several administrations, all the way up to the Trump administration, serving as a so-called medical advisor. But he is one of them, you guys. We just have to read the signs, look at the flags. The writing is on the wall. Now, I had mentioned before in a previous video how one of the Rockefeller brothers was saying to Aaron Russo how they had this planned event and that it will allow them to do things that they would not have been able to do under normal circumstances. And that was fearing the people. What was that terrorist event? 9/11. In comes the Patriot Act, stealing our freedoms. Well, this new manufactured crisis, this pandemic, let's go back and see how this was planned. Now, back in 2014, when Dr. Fauci and his National Institute was funding the Wuhan lab, they funded them for two studies. One was to observe the coronavirus out in the wild, and then the second study was gain of function, basically how to get this virus to jump from animal to human. So when they were doing this, you remember when we were having the SARS outbreak and all these outbreaks are manufactured, trust me. So the Obama administration had enough sense to shut it down. So there was a moratorium. So then, lo and behold, when Trump's coming to office, 2017, Dr. Fauci goes and does his Jedi mind trick on Trump. Trump okays the study, so he picks back up where he left off. Now, in 2017, what's interesting about 2017, this is what Dr. Fauci said. They always let you know what they're going to do. Now, this article you can find in helio.com. This is Healthcare and Politics. Now, the title states, Fauci, no doubt Trump will face surprise infectious disease outbreak. It says, Anthony S. Fauci, MD, Director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said there is no doubt Donald J. Trump will be confronted with a surprise infectious disease outbreak during his presidency. Now, how was he able to speak that so emphatically, you know, brazenly bold, stating this, that this thing is going to happen? He is able to state this is because he is the one behind it. He is the one funding it. It says Fauci has led the NIAID for more than 3 decades, advising the past 5 United States presidents on global health threats, from the early days of the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s through the current Zika virus outbreak. during a forum on pandemic preparedness at Georgetown University. And this is where he said this famous statement. Fauci said the Trump administration will not only be challenged by ongoing global health threats such as influenza and HIV, but also a surprise disease outbreak. Now, let's go and look at this other article which Newsweek put out, and they lay it all out on the line. And let me just pull it up on my phone. You would not believe what's in this article. My goodness, they just laid it all out there. And when they called for Dr. Fauci to make a statement, he did not want to make a statement. It says, Dr. Fauci backed controversial Wuhan lab, US dollars for risky coronavirus research. Now, mind you, over these two experiments, it was a total of $7.4 million. The first part of the research, they were, as I stated before, observing this coronavirus out in the wild, watching it basically jump from animal to animal. And once they saw that they were able to get an animal that was not infected with the virus, they achieved their goal. So they said, okay, the next part of the study is we wanted to jump from an infected animal to a human. Now, how were they able to do this? Let's get into this article. It says, Dr. Anthony Fauci is an advisor to President Donald Trump and something of an American folk hero for his steady, calm leadership during the pandemic crisis. Let me get to the meat of the article. I don't want to bore you with the details of his career background and what he's done, because I already stated that. Let's jump to right here. But just last year, the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the organization led by Dr. Fauci, funded scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and other institutions for work on gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses. In 2019, with the backing of the National Institute of Allergies, the National Institutes of Health committed $3.7 million over 6 years for research that included some gain-of-function work. This program followed another $3.7 million 5-year project for collecting and studying bat coronaviruses, which ended in 2019. Many scientists, why did it end in 2019? Wasn't that thing breaking out in China? They had achieved their goal. It says SARS-CoV-2, the virus now causing a global pandemic, is believed to have originated in bats. U.S. intelligence, after originally asserting that the coronavirus had occurred naturally, conceded last month that the pandemic may have originated in a leak from the Wuhan lab. It wasn't a leak, it was an unleashment to create what they have created. They two-part killing two birds with one stone, getting their vaccine on the market, causing a global collapse of all economies, and one more, that's 3 I should say, and killing off the so-called useless eaters, you and me, because that's always their goal, to depopulate. It says the NIH research consisted of 2 parts. The first part began in 2014 and involved surveillance of bat coronaviruses. It had a budget of $3.7 million. The program funded Shizing Li, a virologist at the Wuhan lab, and other researchers to investigate and catalog bat coronaviruses in the wild. This part of the project was completed in 2019. The second phase of the project beginning that year included additional surveillance work, but also gain-of-function research. Now, this is the crazy part, how they go in here specifically to manipulate this virus to get it to attach to a human. Now, let's discuss how they do that. It says the project proposal states, we will use S protein sequence data infectious clone technology, in vitro and in vivo infection experiments, and analysis of receptor binding to test the hypothesis that percentage divergence thresholds and S protein sequences predict spillover potential. Now it says in layman terms, spillover potential refers to the ability of a virus to jump from animal to humans, which requires that the virus be able to attach to the receptors in the cells of humans. SARS-CoV-2, for instance, is adept to binding to the ACE2 receptor in human lungs and other organs. So this is why people's lungs start filling up with fluid. They're feeling like they can't breathe, and they're on their deathbed, like they're about to take their very last breath. And then on top of that, they administer the wrong treatment. So many doctors have spoken out against these ventilators, saying how they're killing people with these ventilators, that they need to be giving these people oxygen. It says, according to Richard E. Bright, an infectious disease expert at Rutgers University, the project description refers to experiments that would enhance the ability of bat coronavirus to infect human cells and laboratory animals using techniques of genetic engineering. In the wake of the pandemic, that is a noteworthy detail. E. Bright, along with many other scientists, has been a vocal opponent of gain-of-function research because of the risk it presents of creating a pandemic through accidental release from a lab. We all know by now that was not an accidental release. They achieved their goal. They destroyed this economy, put over 30 million people on unemployment. Small businesses, which is the bloodline of this country, is going to be wiped out. It says Dr. Fauci is renowned for his work on the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 1990s, which this article must not know how this man stole the research from Dr. Judith Mikovits and her partner that she worked with in France, the French doctor, and how Dr. Fauci's partner, Dr. Gallo, was brought up on criminal charges. Okay, back to the article. A decade ago, during controversy over gain-of-function research on bird flu viruses, Dr. Fauci played an important role in promoting the work. He argued that the research was worth the risk it entailed because it enables scientists to make preparations such as investigating possible antiviral medications. So they go in there and they create these viruses, unleash them onto the public, and then come out and say that they have to do this work, you know, so they can produce these vaccines, because they're not making any money by these other drugs. This is going to pay big bucks, these vaccines. So they got to keep creating these pandemics and epidemics, to keep shooting you up with these vaccines with God knows, only God knows what they put in those vaccines, you know. And not to mention the people that die and have a fatal reaction to these vaccines. It says the work in question was a type of gain-of-function research that involved taking wild viruses and passing them through live animals until they mutate into a form that could pose a pandemic threat. Scientists used it to take a virus that was poorly transmitted among humans and make it into one that was highly transmittable. So see, they didn't get the effect that they wanted from bird flu. They probably wanted the bird flu to be a pandemic, but that was poorly transmissible. So now they achieved their goal with coronavirus, a virus that was highly transmissible, that just spread all over the world as China unleashed their people from Wuhan and let them get on planes and go all over the world, you know, infecting people. You know, I even heard, and I think I even mentioned it on an earlier video, where a couple who had not been infected with coronavirus had went to a hotel, and then they began to explain how it traveled through the air ducts. So they were running the air in this hotel, and they ended up getting coronavirus. Somebody in another room probably coughing, sneezing, doing whatever, air getting sucked up and traveling through the vents. Man, it says this work entailed risks that worried even seasoned researchers. More than 200 scientists called for the work to be halted. The problem, they said, is that it increased the likelihood that a pandemic would occur through a laboratory accident. Dr. Fauci, of course, defended the work, determining the molecular Achilles heel of these viruses can allow scientists to identify novel antiviral drug targets that can be used to prevent infection in those at risk or to better treat those who become infected. So you see how they're creating their own payday? He is part of the system in lockstep with Bill Gates. All these people need to be under criminal investigation. Not only does Fauci need to be reporting before the Senate hearing committee, but Bill Gates and all these other people that's participating in this. You know, it says, nevertheless, in 2014, under pressure from the Obama administration, the National Institute of Health instituted a moratorium on the work, suspending 21 studies. 3 years later, though, in December 2017, the NIH ended the moratorium. And the second phase of the NIAID project, which included gain-of-function research, began. Now you see, Trump was in office. Fauci was able to get to him and tell him how important this work must be and what it will accomplish and how they will be able to treat these epidemics and pandemics by this research. Trump not knowing anything about biology, the medical field, how these research on these viruses could cause potential harm. He doesn't know any of this, you know. But like I said, Fauci does his Jedi mind trick. And you know what I was thinking? Where was Dr. Ben Carson when Fauci was having Donald Trump's ear? Where was Dr. Ben Carson? He's supposed to be a medical advisor as well, along with, well, I shouldn't say that. I know he has his other duties with HUD and all of that with the homes. And I heard him on I think it was on Fox, when he said this was intentional. So he knows, but apparently he must have been absent from this meeting with Dr. Fauci and President Trump. Otherwise, this probably wouldn't have never happened, and we will still be walking around here like we were before. But now it's like we're living in a new world. Everywhere you go, people have these masks on. It is, you know, the different directions that they tell you to walk in Walmart. Like I was at Walmart today. I'm pretty sure you have it in your Walmart as well. All the little blue markers 6 feet apart. Go down this aisle one way. You know, then the X on this end. No, you can't enter the aisle this way. You know, you got to go this way. It's just weird. But you know what? When I go in there, I break all the rules. Because I ain't falling in line with the new normal. It says, we have serious doubts about whether these experiments should be conducted at all, wrote Tom Inglesby of Johns Hopkins University and Mark Lipsitch of Harvard. With deliberations kept behind closed doors, none of us will have the opportunity to understand how the government arrived at these decisions or to judge the rigor and integrity of that process. You see, things done behind closed doors that's done in the dark is going to always be brought to the light, like this article that's revealing everything. You know, all you have to do is connect the dots, because these people are so arrogant. Just like all this information is coming out with General Flynn and how arrogant Comey was when he was on that talk show talking to that lady. You know, well, it was a newish administration, so, you know, I guess we thought we'll just go ahead and give it a try and I'll send my guys over there to talk to General Flynn. Oh no, you don't need a lawyer. You know, this is just a conversation among friends. And then all of a sudden this man lost everything. Found himself up on charges, you know, trumped up charges at that. It's just a shame. It's just so much corruption. But what about some other people that's playing a vital role in the overthrow of this country and promoting this so-called new normal? Yes, all these celebrities who sit out, you know, in Hollywood, in the hills, in their mansions, driving their Lamborghinis and their expensive cars. Come to find out, I ran across this article and they signed a plea. You know what it's entitled? Please, let's not go back to normal. That calls for radical transformation of economies and for humanity to examine what is essential. That means they want all forms of currency to crash. We see Bill Gates putting together his cryptocurrency. We see Facebook talking about their cryptocurrency, a new way of, you know, paying for transactions. But people, this is control. We already see the control in the tyrannical guidelines on Facebook, on YouTube, and all these other media sources that do not follow. If you do not follow the narrative, you will be deleted. They will label you as disinformation. And this is part of Event 201. See, this is social media being on board with that program. All these things were already discussed a month before that virus was unleashed in November. It's just sad. Look at these celebrities. It says, of course, it says, we believe it is unthinkable to go back to normal. Adjustments are not enough. The problem is symptomatic. The ongoing ecological catastrophe is a meta crisis. See, these people, they don't believe in God. That's why they're doing all this wickedness trying to preserve this earth. But we know, as followers of Christ, that this world is coming to an end. No matter what type of Green New Deal they try to push, whatever other agenda they try to push, which is going to be more tyrannical control over us. You know, it sounds good on the outside, but once that bill is passed, then you're going to see the ugliness of it. Just like Obamacare. It was not affordable at all. They were talking about those high premiums once that thing passed. And this Green Deal, this ecological, you know, save the earth mentality, you're going to see the truth in that as well. It says a global ecological collapse will have immeasurable consequences. It continues. Well, this whole earth is going to collapse. It's going to burn. And then it's going to be made new. I hope you are on board. This is it says the pursuit of consumerism and an obsession with productivity had led us to deny the value of life itself. Now, do you see the hypocrisy of that? They are the main ones that are out there clamoring and pushing the abortion agenda. And now all of a sudden, they want us to believe that they care about life. Well, you guys, we have to, you know, continue to trust in God and use that spiritual discernment. You know, pay attention to what these people tell you. They always tell you, because they're so arrogant, they always tell you what they're going to do before they do it. You just have to listen. And then when it comes to fruition, connect the dots, you know. And I hope and pray that indictments come down for what these people have done. And the main person that needs to be indicted, oh, they won't get him. He was behind the whole thing. The whole Russia-Trump collusion. the whole General Flynn and everybody else that they put under illegal surveillance on this fake dossier, this Russian dossier. Well, you guys, that's all I'm gonna say, because I done ran on, what is that, 25 minutes, going on 30 minutes. But don't trust my word. Go out there and research these things for yourself. You can read that article in Newsweek magazine. You can find the other article at helio.com, like healio.com, which is about healthcare and politics. And you could read that statement for yourself, how boldly Dr. Anthony Fauci states that the Trump administration will face, that event. Well, my light done turned red, so that's how I'm gonna leave it.